So, hello everyone. Let's talk about Terraform. So, and for the duration of this talk, I really need you to remember that I really love Terraform, but something always seemed off. Finally, I had a revelation that infrastructure as code is not code. Those of you who agree with me can use the remaining 4.5 minutes to go outside and grab an espresso. And for the rest of you who need convincing, hello, my name is Nati Cohen, and I'm an infrastructure developer at Here Mobility. During the past year or so, my team and I were busy setting up our infrastructure using Terraform and providing emotional support to our service teams as they bootstrap the services in the cloud. One of these teams wanted to store some important information in S3 buckets. And to do that in S3, in Terraform, of course, they need to specify those resources. And as you can see, most of it is a little bit copy-pasty. So this Terraform configuration, of course, never pass a code review because it violates one of the basic principles of software engineering, which is, of course, don't repeat yourself. And it can be refactored as such. You can create a list and iterate over that list and create those resources. Now it's beautiful and dry. However, a little bit afterwards, one of the developers wanted to remove a single bucket, only to find out that Terraform is planning to destroy all of his buckets and all of his data for reasons not worth going into in a 5-minute ignite. Another very important software engineering principle is divide and conquer, where instead of solving giant problem with giant blob of code, which is unmaintainable, unreadable, hard to test, and so on, we solve sub-problems, for example, using a single class. And Terraform has just a thing, Terraform modules, which you should use. And we solve the sub-problem of self-hosted DBs using a Terraform module. And then we could use the solution to this sub-problem. We can say, here we have a module creating a database, and we have an application running on an instance that we want to use that database in. And since Terraform has a dependency graph, then we can be sure that the database will be created before the application. Right? Wrong. Because modules are not first-class citizens you expect them to be, and they're actually nothing like a class or a struct, and infrastructure as code is not code. Now that our developers passed the denial and anger stages of and reach the bargaining stage, they say something like this. OK, so we understand that we can't use software engineering principles using Terraform, but if we get our Terraform configuration working correctly, just like any other code we write, we can run it as many times as we want, for example, on every deploy, right? So we had to say, OK, well, maybe. It depends. If your Terraform configuration on every run adds and destroy resources, and your deployments are frequent, then you actually increase the probability of having something bad happen during the apply, and which will probably leave you with orphan resources in the cloud, which are still serving users, but not managed by anything, including Terraform. While I haven't run out of examples, I ran out of time. Please come afterwards and talk to me about testing, debugging, and versioning of Terraform. But to recap, infrastructure as code is not code. But what can you do about it? Two things. The first, show some empathy toward your fellow developers, as the entire world is falling apart when they have to deal with infrastructure as code. And then, while infrastructure as code is one of the finest hammers that you have in your toolbox, I want you to remember that some problems are better be solved by taking the Cloud SDK, reading the API documentation, and writing some actual code. Thank you.